In a quiet town nestled between rolling hills, there stood a hospital that many in the community trusted. It was not a large, bustling place, but it was where people came for care when they needed it most. Inside, the hospital staff worked tirelessly to help their patients, but it was the outside world that intrigued them one cold winter evening. Each night, just as the clock struck 10 p.m., a little puppy appeared by the hospital's front doors. The puppy wasn't like any other dog they had seen. It was small, with soft brown fur and bright, curious eyes that sparkled in the dim light of the hospital entrance. It wasn't a stray, nor did it seem to belong to anyone in particular. There were no collars, no tags, just a little dog who wandered in and out of the shadows each night. At first, it was something the night shift staff noticed but didn't think much of. They assumed the dog belonged to someone who lived nearby. Maybe it was just out for a walk or waiting for its owner to finish a shift. But as the days passed, something odd began to happen. Every night, right on schedule, the puppy returned. The staff started to talk about it among themselves. "Where does it come from?" they asked. "Why does it come here of all places?" The hospital wasn't in the best area. There was a small park nearby, but nothing that would explain why this little puppy chose to sit outside this particular building. The dog never barked, never wandered too far, just seemed to sit by the doors, its eyes scanning the entrance as if waiting for something. Dr. Peter, one of the hospital's most compassionate doctors, was the first to really take notice. He had worked at the hospital for years and was familiar with the quiet streets that surrounded it. But seeing the puppy every night, curled up outside, waiting for something, bothered him in a way he couldn't explain. He decided one evening to stay after his shift and find out what was going on. The night was colder than usual, and the little puppy sat shivering by the entrance. Dr. Peter watched from a distance, wondering if someone would come for the dog. As the minutes passed, he saw no one. There was no sign of anyone taking care of it, no sign of an owner coming to collect the little creature. The puppy didn't move from its spot. It just stayed there, watching the doors of the hospital, its little body barely making a sound except for the occasional shiver. Dr. Peter felt a pang in his chest as he stared at the small animal. Was it lost? Or was there something more to this puppy than met the eye? At that moment, a nurse passing by noticed him standing there and asked, "Have you seen that dog before?" Dr. Peter nodded. "Every night around this time," the nurse sighed. "It's strange. The poor thing's been coming here for weeks now. We thought it was just a stray, but it's always here, right on time. It seems to know the hospital's schedule." Dr. Peter couldn't understand why. Why this hospital? Why this puppy? It was as though it had a deep connection to the place. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to this story. The nurse continued. "Some of the patients have noticed it too. Some say it brings them comfort, just knowing it's out there, like a little guardian watching over the hospital." "Comfort?" Dr. Peter repeated, puzzled. "How?" "Well, you know how stressful it can be here sometimes, especially for the families. The puppy just makes them feel a little less alone, I suppose." Dr. Peter nodded slowly, deep in thought. There was something about this small, mysterious puppy that felt different. It wasn't just a dog wandering aimlessly through the streets. No, this puppy seemed to have a purpose, whether the staff knew it or not. That night, after finishing his rounds, Dr. Peter decided to take a walk outside. The air was crisp, and the streets were quiet, save for the faint sound of rustling leaves. The little puppy was there as expected, curled up on the cold pavement, its fur a little ruffled from the wind. He knelt down, slowly and carefully, making sure not to startle it. The puppy looked up at him with its big dark eyes, and for a moment it seemed like the world had stopped. There was something about the way the dog looked at him, a sense of understanding, as if it knew exactly who he was. "Hey there," Dr. Peter whispered gently. The puppy didn't bark or wag its tail. Instead, it just looked at him, its eyes soft but filled with something deep, something that Dr. Peter couldn't quite explain. After a long moment, the dog yawned, then curled up again in its little spot, resting its head on its paws as though nothing in the world could be more comfortable. Dr. Peter stayed with the puppy for a while, wondering about its story. Who did it belong to? Why did it come here night after night without fail? As the hours passed, the puppy never left its post. Dr. Peter was about to return inside when something made him stop. He glanced down at the small creature and then looked back at the hospital entrance. Something didn't feel right. There was more to this story than just a lonely dog seeking warmth. The puppy's presence here, night after night, was no coincidence. Dr. Peter had the feeling that somehow, this dog was trying to tell him something. As he walked back inside, he couldn't shake the image of the little puppy, waiting patiently in the cold. There was something so hauntingly familiar about it. Dr. Peter knew that whatever the truth was, he was determined to uncover it. The puppy wasn't just a random stray. It was here for a reason, and Dr. Peter would find out why. The days seemed to blend together for Dr. Peter as he continued his rounds at the hospital. The work was the same as always, treating patients, answering questions, providing comfort. But his thoughts kept drifting back to the little puppy outside. The dog's nightly appearances were a quiet mystery, one that stirred something inside him. Every time Dr. Peter walked past the front doors, he saw the same sight. There it was, the little brown puppy curled up near the entrance, looking as if it had been waiting there all day. Its eyes would follow him as he passed, but it never moved, never barked, just waited. Dr. Peter had never seen a dog so loyal, so constant. It was like the puppy had its own little routine, as though it knew exactly what time it was supposed to arrive and when it would leave. And it wasn't just during the night shifts. The staff had noticed the dog every single day, always right on schedule. One evening, after finishing his shift and ready to head home, Dr. Peter made a decision. He couldn't keep wondering about the dog. It was time to find out what was going on. He grabbed his coat and walked toward the hospital's front doors. The sky had just turned dark and a chill hung in the air. As he stepped outside, there it was again, right where he expected it to be. The little puppy curled up in a tight ball, as if it had been waiting for him all along. But this time, Dr. Peter didn't just walk past. He stopped, crouching down beside the dog. The puppy looked up at him, its large eyes filled with a quiet curiosity. It didn't bark or jump up like most dogs would. Instead, it simply stared, its tail wagging slowly, but it stayed where it was. Dr. Peter reached out a hand and the puppy gently nuzzled it, a soft whimper escaping its throat. He felt a small pang of emotion. There was something about this dog that seemed different from the rest. "Hey there," he said quietly, feeling a bond form between them, though he couldn't explain why. The puppy continued to stare at him with those deep, dark eyes, and for a moment, Dr. Peter felt like the world had slowed down. The noise of the hospital, the traffic outside, the people going about their business, everything seemed distant, as if nothing else mattered except this little puppy, waiting so patiently outside the hospital doors. He stayed with it for a while, talking softly and stroking its fur. The puppy seemed calm, even comforted by his presence. Eventually, though, Dr. Peter knew he had to go back inside. But he couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a stray dog. There had to be a reason why it was here, why it kept coming back every night. He returned to the hospital and went about his night, but thoughts of the puppy kept nagging at him. Why was it always there? What was it waiting for? There was an unspoken connection between them, and Dr. Peter couldn't let it go. The next day he brought it up to one of the nurses who worked the night shift. Her name was Lily, and she had been at the hospital for several years. If anyone knew anything about the puppy, it would be her. "You've noticed the puppy, right?" Dr. Peter asked her during a quiet moment in the break room. Lily nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Yes, I've seen it out there many times. It's almost like it has a schedule. It comes out of nowhere, sits by the door, and doesn't move until morning." Dr. Peter frowned. "That's what I've noticed too. But it's not like a stray dog, is it? It just seems different. I mean, it's here every night, right on time." Lily shrugged slightly. "Yeah, but no one really knows where it comes from. Some of the patients have mentioned seeing it before too. They say it brings them comfort, especially at night when things get tough." "Comfort?" Dr. Peter repeated, his eyebrows furrowing in confusion. "How can a dog bring comfort to people who are so ill?" Lily smiled softly. "Well, that's the thing. Sometimes it's the small things that make the biggest difference. Some of the patients, especially the ones who've been here a long time, get so lonely. Having something outside, something waiting there every night, makes them feel less alone. It's like the puppy is watching over the hospital." Dr. Peter thought about this for a moment. He had never considered how important something as simple as a puppy could be for people in pain. But now that he was hearing it from Lily, it made sense. The puppy had become a small symbol of hope and warmth for those in need, a quiet presence in an otherwise lonely place. But still, he couldn't shake the nagging questions. Who was taking care of this dog? Who was bringing it here every night? The next night, Dr. Peter made a decision. He was going to wait outside the hospital just like the puppy did and see if he could get some answers. As the evening shifted into night, he stepped out of the hospital and took a seat near the entrance. He sat still, watching the quiet streets and waiting. The chill in the air was sharp, and the sounds of the night, the distant hum of cars, the rustling of leaves felt oddly comforting. Then, just like the night before, the little puppy appeared. It walked slowly toward the hospital, its tiny paws clicking on the pavement. Dr. Peter stood up, heart pounding. He had no idea what would happen next, but he knew he had to find out. As the puppy settled into its usual spot, Dr. Peter moved closer, keeping a safe distance, and watched intently. After what felt like an eternity, a figure appeared in the distance walking down the street. It was a girl, not much older than a teenager. She was walking slowly, her head down as she made her way to the hospital. Dr. Peter felt a rush of realization flood over him. This was no ordinary dog. This was a dog with a purpose, and the girl was its owner. The girl stopped just before reaching the puppy. She knelt down beside it, and Dr. Peter saw the puppy's tail begin to wag, its eyes lighting up in recognition. The girl whispered something to the dog, her voice soft and soothing. Dr. Peter couldn't hear what she said, but he could tell it was a conversation of love, a bond between the two that was deeper than words. He stayed hidden in the shadows, watching, trying to make sense of what he had just seen. As the girl sat down on the cold ground, the puppy climbed onto her lap, resting its head against her chest. Dr. Peter's heart softened. This was why the puppy was here. This was why it had been coming back every night. It wasn't just waiting outside the hospital. It was waiting for this girl. The puppy was more than just a companion. It was a lifeline, something to hold on to during a time of incredible pain. For the first time, Dr. Peter understood. The puppy was there not just to comfort the sick, but to give this girl a sense of peace, a feeling that she wasn't alone, no matter how difficult her circumstances were. And just as quickly as she had appeared, the girl stood up, brushing the dirt from her clothes. She whispered one last word to the puppy, who gave a final nuzzle before following her as she made her way back into the night. Dr. Peter stood frozen for a moment, taking in the scene. The mystery was finally solved, but his heart ached for the girl. He could only imagine what she was going through, and how much the puppy meant to her. It wasn't just a dog. It was a guardian, a friend, a source of love in a world that had given her so much pain. As he watched them disappear into the night, Dr. Peter knew one thing for certain. The bond between the girl and the puppy was something special, and he would do whatever he could to help them both, even if he didn't fully understand the story yet. The next day, Dr. Peter couldn't stop thinking about what he had seen. The girl and the puppy, there was something about their connection that tugged at his heart. He felt a mix of concern and curiosity. Who was she? What was her story? And why did the puppy seem to have such a deep bond with her? For the rest of the week, Dr. Peter kept his eyes peeled for any signs that might lead him to an answer. Each night, the puppy would appear, and each night the girl would show up at the same time to meet it. He watched from a distance, too afraid to approach them directly. The last thing he wanted was to intrude on their moment. But he felt like he was witnessing something important, something that needed to be understood. It wasn't until a few days later that Dr. Peter finally found the courage to ask someone about the girl. He was on his break, sipping coffee in the hospital lounge, when he overheard two nurses talking quietly in the corner. "Have you seen the girl who brings the puppy?" one nurse asked. "The one who always sits outside by the doors?" The other nurse nodded. "Yeah, I've seen her. She's been coming here for a while now. Do you know who she is?" Dr. Peter couldn't help but ask. The two nurses turned to look at him, surprised that he'd been listening. After a moment, one of them spoke. "She's one of the long-term patients. She's been battling a serious illness for months now, and she's here for regular treatments," the nurse explained. "Her name is Mia. She's been through a lot." Dr. Peter's heart sank. Mia. He had never met her before, but now he understood why the puppy was always waiting for her. It wasn't just a coincidence. The dog was more than a pet. It was a companion, a source of comfort during the hardest times of her life. The nurse continued. "Her mom passed away not long ago, and Mia's been really struggling with it. I think the puppy is the only thing that keeps her grounded. It's her way of coping. Dr. Peter felt a lump form in his throat as he absorbed the information. The puppy wasn't just offering comfort. It was a lifeline for Mia. It was the one thing that kept her from feeling completely lost. Does anyone know where the puppy came from? Dr. Peter asked, eager to learn more. The nurse shrugged. No one really knows. It just showed up one day and Mia started bringing it here. It's been with her ever since. Dr. Peter thought about this for a moment. There was so much he didn't know about Mia's situation, but he was beginning to piece together the story. The puppy wasn't just a dog. It was a symbol of the love and support Mia had lost with the death of her mother. It was a reminder that no matter how dark things got, she wasn't entirely alone. He spent the next few days thinking about Mia and the puppy. He couldn't imagine what it must be like to lose a mother and face a long, uncertain road ahead, but he also couldn't ignore the strength Mia showed. She kept coming to the hospital, kept fighting through the pain with only the puppy by her side for comfort. On the 5th day, Dr. Peter decided to visit Mia during her treatment. He had never spoken to her before, but now he felt a deep need to connect with her, to offer some sort of support. It was late in the afternoon when he found her sitting alone in a small waiting area, her head tilted down as she stared at the floor. The puppy was lying beside her, its head resting on her lap as if it knew exactly what she needed. Dr. Peter took a deep breath and approached her slowly. "Hi," he said gently, not wanting to startle her. Mia looked up, her eyes tired but kind. She smiled faintly, but it was clear that the weight of everything was taking a toll on her. "Hello," she replied softly, her voice almost a whisper. "I'm Dr. Peter," he said, sitting down beside her. "I've seen you and your puppy outside the hospital a lot lately. I just wanted to check in with you, see how you're doing." Mia nodded but didn't say anything at first. She was quiet for a moment, then looked down at the puppy in her lap. "This is Charlie," she said, her fingers gently brushing the puppy's soft fur. "He's been with me since my mom died. He's all I have left now." Dr. Peter felt a lump in his throat. He had suspected that Mia was going through something difficult, but hearing her speak so openly about her pain made it all feel real. "I'm so sorry for your loss," Dr. Peter said quietly, trying to find the right words. Mia looked up at him, her eyes full of sadness but also something else, something deeper, a sense of gratitude. "Thank you. It's hard. Every day feels like a struggle. But Charlie helps. He's the only thing that makes me feel like I'm not completely alone." Dr. Peter nodded, understanding more than he could put into words. He had seen countless patients over the years, many of them dealing with serious illnesses, but Mia's story was different. This wasn't just about her health. It was about her heart, her emotions, her connection to the world. "You know, it's really amazing," Dr. Peter said, his voice soft but sincere. "The bond you and Charlie have. It's clear that he's not just a dog to you. He's more than that. He's your strength." Mia looked down at Charlie, her eyes softening. "He is. He's the only one who's been there for me every day. When things get tough, when I'm scared or in pain, he's always there, just sitting by me. He doesn't say anything, but he understands. And that's enough." Dr. Peter felt a wave of emotion wash over him. He had seen the power of love before, but he had never seen it so purely manifested in the form of a small puppy. Charlie wasn't just a dog, he was a source of healing. A silent but constant support for Mia as she faced the hardest time of her life. "I'm glad you have him," Dr. Peter said quietly, unable to express how much he admired the bond they shared. Mia smiled faintly, but the sadness in her eyes never fully went away. "I don't know what I would do without him. He's the only thing that makes this whole experience bearable." For a moment, Dr. Peter just sat with her in silence, letting the weight of her words settle in. He had always believed in the power of medicine. He had seen the way treatments could heal the body. But this was different. This was the healing of the soul, something that couldn't be fixed with a prescription or a hospital bed. Charlie nuzzled her gently, as if to reassure her that he would always be there. Mia smiled, her fingers gently stroking his fur. After a long pause, Dr. Peter stood up. "Well, Mia, I just wanted to say that I'm here if you ever need anything. You're not alone in this." Mia looked up at him, her eyes full of gratitude. "Thank you, Dr. Peter. I really appreciate it." As he walked away, Dr. Peter couldn't help but think about what he had learned. The puppy Charlie had become more than just a companion. He had become a symbol of resilience, of love that transcended all the pain in Mia's life. It was clear now that their connection was something truly special. Dr. Peter felt a deep sense of respect for both of them, and he knew that whatever happened, he would do whatever he could to help Mia and her faithful little puppy through this challenging time. As the days went on, Dr. Peter couldn't stop thinking about Mia and the puppy. He had learned more about her than he ever expected, and with each new detail his heart grew heavier. Mia wasn't just dealing with an illness. She was carrying the weight of grief, loneliness, and the fear of an uncertain future. And in the middle of it all there was Charlie, the small, loyal puppy that had become her lifeline. Mia's story touched him deeply. He saw her struggle, her quiet strength, and the profound bond between her and Charlie. But there was something else in the back of his mind that wouldn't let go. There was something about this connection between them that felt almost magical. It wasn't just that Mia had a puppy for comfort. It was the way Charlie seemed to understand her pain, as if he knew exactly what she needed even before she did. It was as if he had a purpose in her life that went beyond being a mere pet. Dr. Peter spent more time observing them both. He started to notice how Mia's mood would shift whenever Charlie was around. On days when she was in pain or feeling down, Charlie would nuzzle her gently as if he knew just how to comfort her. And on days when Mia smiled, Charlie would bounce around her, wagging his tail in excitement. It was as if the puppy was a mirror to Mia's emotions, reflecting them with an unwavering sense of love. One evening, as Dr. Peter was finishing his shift, he decided to walk outside and visit Mia again. He had been thinking about her all day and felt a strong urge to check on her, to make sure she was okay. When he stepped outside, he saw her sitting near the entrance, as she always did, with Charlie resting beside her. He approached quietly, not wanting to disturb their peace. But when Mia saw him, she smiled warmly, as though she had been expecting him. "Hi, Dr. Peter," she said softly, her voice a little stronger than before. "Hey, Mia," he replied, sitting down next to her. "How are you doing tonight?" Mia shrugged a little, her gaze shifting to Charlie. "Better, I guess. Some days are harder than others, but having him around helps. It's like he knows when I need him most." Dr. Peter nodded, watching Charlie as the puppy rolled over onto his back, his tiny paws wiggling in the air. "He seems like a pretty special dog," he said. Mia smiled, a soft laugh escaping her lips. "He is. Sometimes I feel like he understands me better than anyone else." Dr. Peter paused, thinking about how true that was. He had seen the bond between them. It was unlike anything he had ever witnessed before. "I don't think it's just you who he understands," he said, his voice thoughtful. "It's clear that he really loves you. He's here for you no matter what." Mia's smile faded a little as she looked down at the puppy. Her expression softened, filled with a kind of sadness that Dr. Peter could see in her eyes. "Sometimes I feel like I'm holding him back," she said quietly. "Like I'm asking too much from him." Dr. Peter was taken aback. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Mia hesitated, her voice trailing off. She seemed to be searching for the right words. I'm not sure how much longer I can keep fighting. Some days it feels like I'm not getting any better, and I don't want him to have to keep watching me struggle." Dr. Peter felt a deep sense of empathy. He had heard similar words from patients before, but hearing them from Mia, someone so young and so full of life, made it hit differently. He could see the weight of her illness pressing down on her, making her feel like she was failing herself, failing Charlie. But what Mia didn't realize was that Charlie wasn't there to watch her struggle. He was there because he loved her, and that love wasn't dependent on her health or her ability to fight. "Mia," Dr. Peter said softly, "Charlie isn't holding back. He's with you because he wants to be. You're not asking too much from him. You're his world. He's here because he loves you, and that's not something you can ever take away from him." Mia looked up at him, her eyes filling with tears. "But I'm scared, Dr. Peter. I'm scared of what's coming, and I don't want him to be hurt by it. I don't want him to see me go through this and not be able to fix it." Dr. Peter's heart ached for her. He understood her fear. It was the fear that many of his patients had faced when they were up against something they couldn't control. But what Mia needed to realize was that love wasn't about fixing things. Love was about showing up, being present even when things were uncertain. And Charlie had been doing that for her every single day. "Charlie doesn't need you to be okay all the time," Dr. Peter said gently. He just needs you to be there. He's here for you, not because he wants you to fight this battle perfectly, but because he loves you. And no matter what happens, that love isn't going to change. Mia wiped her eyes, trying to hold back the tears. I don't know what I'd do without him, she whispered. You don't have to know, Dr. Peter said with a comforting smile. Because you'll never have to be without him. You two are in this together. For a few moments, the three of them, Dr. Peter, Mia, and Charlie, sat together in the quiet of the evening. The sounds of the night were peaceful, and the world felt a little more still. Dr. Peter could see that. Despite the pain and the fear Mia carried, there was something undeniably beautiful in the bond she shared with her puppy. The bond wasn't just about needing comfort. It wasn't just about filling the empty spaces that grief had left behind. It was about finding strength in the smallest moments, in the quiet companionship of a dog who didn't ask for anything but love. As they sat there, Dr. Peter couldn't help but feel grateful for the chance to witness such a raw, unspoken connection. He had spent his life trying to heal the body, but here, in front of him, was a reminder that healing didn't always come from medicine or treatments. Sometimes it came from the heart. Sometimes it came from a puppy's love. I think you're going to be okay, Mia, Dr. Peter said quietly. You've got something very special here, and that's something worth holding on to. Mia smiled weakly, but there was a sense of peace in her eyes that hadn't been there before. She looked down at Charlie, who had now curled up next to her, his head resting on her lap. I think you're right, she whispered, her voice filled with a newfound sense of calm. As the evening passed and the hospital grew quiet, Dr. Peter felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had come to check on Mia, but it was clear that in some small way Mia had checked on him too. Her strength, her courage, and her love for Charlie had reminded him of something he had almost forgotten: the power of connection. When he left that night, he knew that Mia and her puppy would be okay. No matter what the future held, they had each other, and that was enough. The days continued to pass in a steady rhythm. The hospital was always busy, and Dr. Peter's life had returned to its usual pace, but his thoughts kept drifting back to Mia and Charlie. Their bond had left a lasting impression on him. It wasn't just the puppy's unwavering loyalty that amazed him. It was the way Mia had transformed from a quiet, fearful patient into someone who, despite everything, had found a quiet strength. As the weeks passed, Mia seemed to grow a little stronger. Dr. Peter noticed the change during his visits. She had stopped withdrawing so much into herself. Instead, she began to smile more often, and the light in her eyes seemed to return, even if just a little. The shift wasn't dramatic, but it was noticeable. Mia wasn't the same person she had been when he first met her. It was as if Charlie had given her something more than just emotional support. He had given her a reason to keep fighting. But there were still days when the pain would overwhelm her, when the fear of the future would cloud her mind. On those days, Dr. Peter would see her sitting with Charlie outside the hospital, both of them quiet, their presence comforting each other in the silence. Mia would always tell him that she wasn't sure what would happen next, but she felt like, with Charlie by her side, she could make it through another day. One evening, after a particularly difficult day, Dr. Peter found himself walking outside to clear his mind. The air was cool, and the hospital grounds were quiet save for the distant hum of the city and the soft rustling of leaves in the trees. He hadn't expected to see Mia outside that night. She had been in and out of treatments all day, but there she was, sitting in her usual spot by the hospital doors. Charlie was curled up beside her, resting his head on her lap. He walked over slowly, feeling like it had become a kind of routine for him to check on them, even if only from a distance. As he neared her, Mia looked up, a gentle smile tugging at her lips. Hey, Dr. Peter. She greeted him, her voice soft but steady. Hi, Mia, he replied, sitting down beside her. How's it going tonight? Mia sighed but smiled. Better. It's been a rough few days, but I think I'm getting through it. It's like Charlie knows when I'm feeling low. He just sits with me and somehow everything feels a little easier. Dr. Peter smiled, watching the puppy nuzzle into her lap, as if sensing her need for comfort. You and Charlie really have something special. I think he might be one of the most patient dogs I've ever met. Mia chuckled softly, her fingers running through Charlie's fur. He's my little miracle. I don't know what I'd do without him. He's helped me through more than I can count. They sat together for a while in comfortable silence. the weight of the moment settling between them. Dr. Peter wasn't sure if he had ever truly understood the healing power of companionship until he saw the way Mia and Charlie had helped each other through the hardest days of their lives. It wasn't just about the puppy giving comfort to Mia. It was about the two of them sharing an unspoken understanding of pain and loss. They were healing together even in the hardest of moments. Finally, Mia spoke again, her voice quieter this time. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about how Charlie loves me no matter what. It's strange, but it's like the more I've accepted that, the stronger I feel. I don't feel so alone anymore." Dr. Peter's heart swelled. "I'm glad to hear that, Mia. It's a long journey, but you've already come so far. You found something really special in Charlie, and he's found something in you too." Mia nodded, but there was a sense of sadness in her eyes. "I'm scared, Dr. Peter. I'm still scared of what might happen. What if the treatments don't work? What if I can't keep fighting? I don't want to leave him alone." Dr. Peter could see the vulnerability in her, and it made him wish that he could promise her everything would be okay. But he knew that there were no guarantees in life, no way to truly control what would happen next. All he could offer her was support, encouragement, and the understanding that she wasn't alone in this. "I can't promise you what the future holds," he said gently, "but I can promise you that you're not alone. You've got Charlie and you've got people who care about you. Sometimes that's all we can hold on to." Mia wiped a tear from her eye, trying to smile. "I know, and I'm trying, Dr. Peter. I'm trying to keep going. For Charlie, for me, for everything." Dr. Peter smiled, placing a hand on her shoulder. "That's all anyone can do. You're doing your best, Mia, and that's enough." Mia looked down at Charlie, who was now lying beside her, looking up at her with those big, trusting eyes. "I don't want him to be scared, you know. I want him to always be happy." "Charlie will always be happy as long as he's with you," Dr. Peter said. "He's not afraid of what might come. He just knows that right now he's exactly where he needs to be, with you." Mia smiled at that, her hand gently petting Charlie's fur. For the first time in a long time, there was a sense of peace in her eyes. She wasn't free of her fears, but she was learning to face them, one step at a time. As the evening wore on, Dr. Peter stayed with Mia, talking quietly about anything and everything. The hospital felt like a distant world, and for a brief moment there was no illness, no treatments, no uncertainty. There was just Mia and Charlie sitting together, sharing the quiet comfort of each other's presence. Before Dr. Peter left, he stood up and looked down at the two of them. "I'm proud of you, Mia. You're stronger than you know." Mia gave him a soft smile. "Thank you, Dr. Peter. I don't know if I could have done it without him." "You don't have to do it alone," Dr. Peter replied. "And you won't." With that, he turned to leave, his heart a little lighter than before. As he walked back into the hospital, he couldn't help but think about how far Mia had come. She had found something in herself that she hadn't known was there, a strength that had been waiting, ready to surface when she needed it most. And Charlie had been right there every step of the way, reminding her that love could be the greatest healer of all. As the weeks went by, Mia continued her treatments, and though there were still tough days, she faced them with a new sense of determination. The fear didn't go away, but it no longer held the same power over her. She had Charlie. She had the love they shared, and for that she was deeply grateful. And in the quiet corners of the hospital, Dr. Peter often found himself thinking of them, of Mia, and the puppy who had shown them both the true meaning of love and healing. It wasn't the treatments, the medications, or the machines that had helped Mia the most. It was the bond she had with her little dog, the unconditional love they shared that had made all the difference. The hospital continued its usual rhythm, but for Dr. Peter, things felt different. It had been a few weeks since that conversation with Mia, and though she was still going through the tough battles of her treatment, there was a change in her demeanor. She no longer carried the weight of defeat in her eyes. Instead, there was a quiet strength that had emerged. The bond between Mia and Charlie had only deepened, and it was clear that the little puppy had become more than just a comfort. He had become a source of hope. But despite this, Dr. Peter could see that Mia was still holding her breath, waiting for something that she couldn't quite put into words. She seemed to carry a quiet fear that nothing could soothe. He noticed it in the way she would look at Charlie when she thought no one was watching. It was as if she was trying to reassure herself that no matter what, he would always be there. But there were still moments of doubt, moments when she wondered what would happen if things didn't work out as she hoped. One evening, Dr. Peter was finishing his rounds when he walked past the quiet waiting area where Mia often sat. He paused when he saw her. Her shoulders slumped slightly, her gaze distant. Charlie was beside her, resting his head on her lap as he always did. But there was something different about the way Mia looked tonight. She seemed smaller somehow, as if the weight of the world was suddenly pressing down on her again. "Mia?" Dr. Peter called softly, stepping closer. "Are you okay?" Mia looked up, startled at first, but then a small smile appeared on her face. "Oh, hey, Dr. Peter," she said, her voice faint but trying to sound steady. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just tired." Dr. Peter could tell there was more to it than that, but he didn't push. Instead, he sat down beside her, looking at Charlie, who was now lifting his head to stare up at him with those familiar, trusting eyes. "You know, I've been meaning to ask you something," Dr. Peter began, his tone gentle. "How are you feeling about everything? The treatments, the future? How's it all going for you?" Mia's eyes shifted downward and she took a deep breath. "I'm trying to stay hopeful," she said after a long pause. "But sometimes I don't know if it's enough. I mean, I see myself getting better, but there are days when I wonder if it will be enough to keep me here, and that scares me." Dr. Peter was quiet for a moment, letting her words sink in. He could hear the vulnerability in her voice, the uncertainty that still lingered despite the strength she had shown in the past. "It's normal to be scared, Mia," he said softly. "Everyone has those days. But what matters is that you're still here. You're fighting. And that's more than enough. You're doing everything you can." Mia nodded slowly, but her eyes were still clouded with doubt. "But what if it's not enough? What if I can't keep going? I don't want Charlie to have to see that. I don't want him to watch me fade away." Dr. Peter watched her, seeing the pain she was carrying. She had always been so concerned about others, about Charlie, about the people around her. But it was clear now that the fear of losing the fight was becoming harder for her to manage. "Mia," Dr. Peter said gently, "you're not alone in this, and neither is Charlie. He's here with you because he knows something you might have forgotten. He knows that your love is enough for both of you no matter what happens." Mia looked down at Charlie, who was now looking at her with a mixture of curiosity and devotion. His eyes were filled with understanding, as if he knew exactly what she needed. "I don't want him to be alone," she whispered almost to herself. "You're not going anywhere yet, Mia," Dr. Peter assured her. "You've still got a lot of fight in you, and you've got a lot of people around you who care. But no matter what happens, you'll never be alone, not with Charlie by your side." Mia smiled, though it was a bittersweet smile. "I just wish it was easier. I wish I could make things better for him. I know he's been my rock, but sometimes I feel like I'm failing him." "You're not failing him," Dr. Peter replied. "Charlie loves you exactly as you are, and he's here because of the bond you two share. You've already given him everything he needs: love, companionship, and a home." The words seemed to settle in her heart, and for the first time in a while, Mia seemed to breathe a little easier. She looked down at Charlie, who was now licking her hand affectionately. "I guess you're right. I don't know. Sometimes the fear creeps in and it feels like it's hard to breathe." Dr. Peter nodded in understanding. "Fear is a powerful thing. It can make everything feel impossible, but it's okay to feel that way. You don't have to have all the answers right now. You just need to keep going, one step at a time." Mia remained silent for a moment, her hand resting on Charlie's soft fur. "I don't know what the future holds," she said quietly. "But I know one thing, I'm not alone. And that makes all the difference." Dr. Peter smiled, his heart swelling with admiration for her resilience. "Exactly. And you'll always have that. You and Charlie." The conversation lingered in Dr. Peter's mind long after he left the waiting area. He knew that Mia was still uncertain about the future. She was still scared, still worried that she wouldn't be enough. But there was something undeniable about her strength. Even in the darkest moments, Mia was fighting. And she had something that could never be taken away: the love of a little puppy who had become her constant source of light. A few days later, Mia's treatment took a turn. It wasn't dramatic, but it was enough to give her some hope. Her doctors had seen signs that the medications were working, and though it wasn't a cure, it was a positive step forward. For the first time in a long time, Mia allowed herself to feel a glimmer of hope. She had been so caught up in the fear of what might happen that she had almost forgotten how far she had come. Now she realized that she had a choice: to keep fighting, to hold on to the love that Charlie gave her, and to trust that things could get better. Dr. Peter could see the difference in her when he visited her that afternoon. There was a lightness in her step, a quiet confidence that hadn't been there before. She still had moments of doubt, of course, but now she was choosing to focus on what she could control: her attitude, her mindset, and the love she shared with Charlie. As he walked into her room, he smiled at her. "You look like you've got a bit of a spark back." Mia looked up at him, her eyes brighter than he had seen them in weeks. "I do," she said, her voice more certain than it had been in a long time. "I think I'm starting to believe that maybe I can do this. Maybe I can keep fighting." Dr. Peter nodded, proud of her. "I never doubted you for a second, Mia. You've got something inside of you that not a lot of people have. Strength, resilience, and a love that can move mountains. And you've got Charlie right by your side cheering you on." Mia smiled, her hand resting on Charlie's head as he sat beside her, his eyes filled with affection. "I'm ready to keep fighting," she said, her voice full of conviction. "And no matter what happens, I know that as long as I've got Charlie, I can make it through." Dr. Peter left her room that day feeling hopeful, knowing that Mia was finally embracing her journey, not with fear but with a renewed sense of purpose. She had found her strength, and she had found it with Charlie. Whatever the future held, they would face it together, and for Dr. Peter, that was all the proof he needed. Love wasn't just a feeling, it was a force, and it had the power to change everything. The sun had just begun to set over the hospital grounds, casting long shadows across the path where Mia and Charlie often sat together. The warmth of the day was fading, and the air grew cooler, signaling the end of another busy day for the doctors, nurses, and patients. But for Mia, it felt like something new was beginning. Dr. Peter had come by that afternoon to check on her, and the good news about her treatment had lifted her spirits even more. There was still a long road ahead, but Mia finally felt like she was getting a foothold. The fear that had clung to her for so long was starting to loosen its grip. She had fought so hard to keep going, and now it felt like her efforts were finally starting to pay off. As the days passed, Mia's energy slowly returned. She wasn't the same person who had walked into the hospital months ago, exhausted and uncertain. Now there was a spark in her that hadn't been there before, and every step she took with Charlie by her side. It was as though the two of them were learning to live with the uncertainty together. Each day was a gift, and with Charlie, Mia was beginning to appreciate the small moments more than ever. One evening, Mia sat outside on the bench near the entrance, Charlie resting by her feet as usual. The puppy had become a familiar sight to everyone around the hospital. People who had passed by countless times before now stopped to ask how Mia was doing. It was clear that the bond between the two of them had made an impression on the staff as well. Dr. Peter, who had watched their relationship grow from a distance, felt a quiet admiration for both of them. He knew that Mia still had her tough days when the pain became too much or when doubt crept back in. But there was something different about her now. She wasn't just surviving. She was living in her own way, and she was doing it with Charlie, who had been her constant, her anchor, her reason to smile when everything seemed dark. As Dr. Peter approached, he couldn't help but smile when he saw them together, Mia, with her eyes closed, her hand resting on Charlie's fur, and the puppy looking up at her, his tail wagging lazily. "Hey, Mia," Dr. Peter called out as he walked up to her. Mia opened her eyes and looked up, her face brightening at the sight of him. "Hey, Dr. Peter, how's it going?" "Busy as always," he replied, but his smile showed that he was happy to see her doing so well. "How are you doing tonight?" Mia stretched, standing up slowly as Charlie followed her movements with his eager eyes. "I'm doing okay. A little tired, but better. I feel like I'm starting to get back to myself, you know?" Dr. Peter nodded. "I can see it. You're doing great, Mia. I think this is the best I've seen you since you started treatment." Mia smiled, though there was still a hint of hesitation in her eyes. "I know things aren't perfect, but I feel like I can breathe again. And that's a big step." "It really is," Dr. Peter agreed. "And you've done all of this yourself with Charlie by your side. That's something truly special." Mia looked down at the puppy, her face softening as she knelt to pet him. "I don't think I would have made it this far without him. He's the reason I get up every day. He's the one who reminds me that I'm not alone." Dr. Peter watched the interaction between them, feeling a sense of warmth. "I think he'd say the same thing about you. He's been your strength, but you've also been his. You two have this incredible partnership. It's something I think everyone could learn from." Mia nodded, her eyes thoughtful. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. How we get so caught up in the big things, the big goals, and we forget to appreciate the little moments. Charlie, he helps me slow down, helps me take things one day at a time. That's the key, Dr. Peter said with a smile. Sometimes it's the little moments that matter most. And you're learning to make the most of them. I think that's what makes you stronger. For a long while they sat in silence, the soft sound of the evening breeze and the distant hum of the hospital in the background. Mia didn't feel the need to speak much. Just sitting there in the company of Charlie and Dr. Peter felt comforting. She had come so far from the scared, uncertain girl who had arrived months ago. And even though the future was still uncertain, she now had the strength to face it no matter what it might bring. The days continued to get better, little by little. Mia's treatments were slowly taking effect, and her doctors had begun to talk about a possible long-term plan for her care. It wasn't a cure, but it was something, a way to manage her illness, a way to keep moving forward. One afternoon, Dr. Peter sat down with Mia to discuss her progress. He had been following her case closely, and everything was looking much more promising than before. He could tell that the treatment was starting to work, but there was still a lot of work ahead. "You've made incredible progress, Mia," Dr. Peter said as he reviewed her chart. "But I think we both know that this is just the beginning. There will be ups and downs along the way." Mia nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I know. I've been through enough to know that it's not going to be a straight path, but I think I'm ready for whatever comes next." Dr. Peter looked at her, impressed by the confidence in her voice. "I believe you are. I've watched you face this challenge with so much strength. You've come a long way, and I'm proud of you." Mia smiled, but this time it wasn't a small, hesitant smile. It was full of gratitude and quiet pride. "Thank you, Dr. Peter. I don't think I could have done it without everyone here. Without you, and especially without Charlie." The puppy, who had been curled up beside her, perked up at the mention of his name. He trotted over to Dr. Peter, his tail wagging as if he knew he was being praised. Dr. Peter laughed and bent down to pet him. "Well, I can see that he's been a good influence on you. He's certainly a very special dog." Mia laughed, a light, genuine sound that was becoming more familiar. "He is, and I think he's the reason I've been able to make it through. He's been my constant, my reminder that no matter how tough things get, there's always something worth fighting for." Dr. Peter stood up, feeling a sense of satisfaction. "That's a beautiful way to put it. You've got a good support system, Mia. Your family, your friends, the doctors here, and of course Charlie. That's something worth holding on to." Mia's eyes softened as she looked down at Charlie, who had returned to his spot beside her. "I've learned a lot about what it means to love and be loved," she said quietly. "And I think I'm ready to live again. For the first time in a long time, I'm not afraid to move forward." Dr. Peter smiled. "I'm glad to hear that. You've got the strength to face whatever comes your way, and you've got Charlie by your side to help you through it." Mia stood up slowly, stretching as the sun began to dip below the horizon. "I do," she said, her voice full of determination. "And no matter what happens, I'm going to make the most of every day." Dr. Peter nodded, watching her with a sense of pride. He had seen so many patients over the years, but there was something about Mia's journey that stood out to him. She had faced so much, and yet here she was, stronger than ever, ready to take on whatever the future held. As the day turned to night, Mia and Charlie walked away from the hospital side by side. There was no guarantee of what the future would bring, but one thing was certain. Mia was no longer the person who had arrived at the hospital months ago. She had found strength in herself, in her journey, and in the love of a little puppy who had been there through it all. And that, in the end, was all she really needed. Time had a way of moving forward. Whether we were ready or not, Mia and Charlie had become fixtures in the hospital, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. The little puppy had brought so much light into Mia's life, and in return she had given him her heart, a heart that had learned to love and live again. But as much as she had grown, there was still something she couldn't ignore, the reality of her condition. Despite her progress, despite her determination, Mia knew that she wasn't out of the woods yet. The future still loomed ahead, uncertain and full of challenges, but something had changed within her. Mia wasn't afraid anymore, not in the same way. The fear was still there, buried deep within, but she no longer let it control her. Instead, she chose to live with it, to move forward even with the uncertainty hanging over her head. And as long as she had Charlie by her side, she felt like she could face anything. It was a crisp morning when Dr. Peter walked into Mia's room to deliver the news. He had been following her progress closely, and the news he had for her was not what he had hoped for. The treatments had worked, but not as well as they had hoped. There was still a long road ahead, and the reality of her illness was becoming harder to ignore. "Mia," Dr. Peter began gently, "I need to talk to you about your treatment plan. I know you've been doing well and your strength has been incredible, but we've hit a point where we need to adjust things. Your condition, it's still progressing and we need to start considering other options." Mia sat up slowly, her heart sinking. She had known that this moment would come, but hearing the words out loud made it feel real. The fear that she had tried so hard to bury began to rise in her chest, but she took a deep breath, determined not to let it overwhelm her. "I understand," she said quietly, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "I knew this wasn't going to be easy." Dr. Peter looked at her, his eyes filled with compassion. "Mia, you're one of the strongest patients I've ever had. You've been through so much and you've come so far. But we need to face the truth, and that's hard. It's not easy to admit that we've run out of options. But I want you to know that I'm here for you no matter what." Mia nodded, her fingers gently stroking Charlie's fur. The puppy, who had been lying on the bed next to her, lifted his head and looked up at her, sensing her distress. He crawled closer, resting his head on her lap, offering her the comfort only a dog could. "I don't want to give up," Mia whispered, her voice barely audible. "I don't want to let go." Dr. Peter sat down next to her, his expression softening. "I'm not asking you to give up, but sometimes we have to let go of the things we can't control. That doesn't mean we're giving up. It just means we're choosing to focus on the things that really matter. The people who love us, the moments we share, the memories we make." Mia wiped away a tear, trying to stay composed. "I just wish things were different. I wish I could give Charlie more time.
He's been everything to me."
He's been my strength, my reason to keep going. And you've been his strength too," Dr. Peter said softly. "He's not just here because he's your dog. He's here because he loves you. He's been by your side through every step of this journey, and he'll be with you no matter what happens next." Mia looked down at Charlie, her heart swelling with love for him. The bond between them had always been something she couldn't put into words. It was more than just companionship. It was a deep, unspoken connection that had carried her through the darkest days. And now, as the reality of her illness pressed down on her, she knew that she had given him everything she could. She had loved him with all her heart, and he had loved her in return. Without hesitation, Charlie licked her hand gently, as if reassuring her that he was okay, that he would always be okay, as long as they were together. "I don't know what I would have done without him," Mia whispered, her voice breaking. "He saved me in so many ways. He's the reason I'm still here, still fighting." Dr. Peter didn't say anything, but he didn't need to. The silence between them was full of understanding. He knew that Mia's fight wasn't just about her health. It was about the love she shared with Charlie, the love that had kept her going even when everything seemed hopeless. And that love was something that no illness could take away. As the days went by, Mia continued to spend her time with Charlie, cherishing every moment she had with him. She knew the time they had left together was limited, but she refused to let that overshadow the joy they shared. They took walks around the hospital, sat together in the quiet moments, and shared their lives in ways that words couldn't capture. Mia made sure to tell Charlie every day how much she loved him, how grateful she was for him. One evening, as the sky turned a soft pink and the stars began to appear, Mia sat outside with Charlie by her side. She'd always loved the evenings, when the world seemed to slow down and everything felt peaceful. It was during these moments that she felt most connected to Charlie and most connected to herself. "I'm not scared anymore, Charlie," Mia whispered, her voice soft in the quiet night air. "I don't know what happens next, but I'm not scared. Because I've had you, and I'll always have you in my heart." Charlie nuzzled her gently, as if he understood, as if he was telling her that he would always be there, no matter what came next. Dr. Peter came to visit Mia the next day, and as he walked into her room, he could see the change in her. She was at peace, more at peace than he had seen her in a long time. There was no longer any fear in her eyes, only a quiet acceptance. She had come to terms with her situation, and though it wasn't easy, she had found a sense of peace that he hadn't expected. "Mia," Dr. Peter began softly, I want you to know that you're not alone in this. We've done everything we can and will continue to do whatever we can to make sure you're comfortable. But you've shown me something that's more powerful than any treatment we could offer. You've shown me what it means to live with love, and that's something I'll never forget." Mia smiled at him, her eyes bright with gratitude.
Thank you, Dr. Peter. You've been more than just a doctor to me.
"You've been a friend, and I'm so grateful for everything you've done." Dr. Peter felt a lump in his throat as he nodded. "It's been an honor to be part of your journey, Mia. And I know that whatever happens next, you've made a lasting impact on everyone around you." Later that evening, Mia felt a wave of exhaustion wash over her. She had spent the day surrounded by love and warmth, and now as the night settled in, she felt ready to let go. Charlie was lying beside her, his head resting on her lap just as he always had. She ran her fingers through his fur, feeling the comfort of his presence. "I love you, Charlie," she whispered one last time, her voice filled with all the love she had in her heart. Charlie lifted his head, looking up at her with those big, loyal eyes. He didn't need to say anything. His love was enough, and in that moment Mia knew that she had given everything she could. She had lived fully, loved deeply, and faced her fears with courage. And as she closed her eyes for the final time, she felt at peace, knowing that she would always be with Charlie, and he would always be with her.